I call the Planning Commission meeting for April 13th, 2023 to order. We'll begin with the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jackie, we call the roll?
Mr. Haddon?
Here.
Mr. Perkovich?
Here.
Ms. Small?
Here.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Here.
Mr. Varga?
Here.
Mr. Crocker?
Here.
Mr. Cook?
Here. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting, March 23rd, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Crocker?
Abstain.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. We do not have any public hearings tonight, and under old business, items 1, 2, and 3 have asked to remain on the table. So we'll go right into new business. We have a final site plan of a storage facility at 9600 Diamond Center Drive. Is that applicant here? Please come up, give us your name and address. Tell us about your storage facility.
Good evening. Nick Brenner here with Menards, 5101 Menard Drive, Eau Claire, Wisconsin. I don't think the plan has changed too much since I was here, must have been a couple months ago now for the conditional use permit. We are still proposing to build it behind the Menards store. It is still functioning as, having the perimeter units act as a fence, so this entire thing is enclosed, have to use a keypad to gain access through a dual overhead door gate. Only people that have units at this facility are allowed entry into this. Otherwise, the layout has changed very little. We changed a couple of the units around just to accommodate the fire line and hydrants that was requested by the fire department. I went through the comments that we got in the staff report here, and I have already uploaded new civil engineering plans and a new landscape plan to accommodate most of the comments. From a site plan perspective, I didn't see any issues there. So I don't know if there's any other questions on that aspect, and if we want to talk facades, we can wait to the next item or do it now, whatever's.
We'll go do the site plan first. Kathy, anything from the administration?
Nothing other than the 8 items noted in the recommended conditions.
Anything from the commission members? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with 8 conditions?
Second. Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Crocker?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. We have an architectural review of a storage facility at 9600 Diamond Center Drive. All right, now let's talk about the architectural.
All right, sounds good. So we did upload or send in 2 different elevations. We just did it for some options to look at here today. When I submitted that, I did tell Ms. Mitchell that we were willing to do more block on those facades than what we showed on there, but wanted to talk with you all to, kind of figure out what that ratio exactly is, and determine whether, the steel should be used for accents or the LP engineered wood siding. Seems like from the staff report, the wood siding is the preferred accent to that. So just want to go over, the percentages of that so we can, hound that in a little bit. I also know that the staff report says that they want us to match the colors of the store. We are still asking to do our gray and red. That is the Menards branding for the self-storage facility. I understand and agree that this is all one operation with the store. The store runs it all. The company is the same. However, it is a different division, it is a different service that Menards does provide. So we are trying to keep that distinction between the store and the self-storage facility. But and that's really essentially all I had on that, and looking for some discussion.
Thank you. Kathy, anything from administration?
If Larry could pull up the approved final architectural of the Menards building, that's what the administration recommends to be consistent on site for the coloring of the building. Yes, to mimic the Mr. Brenner's comments, we did like option 2. We like the contrast and the variation in the materials. The smart side siding does bring something to the facade that just the straight up metal siding does not. So there's the approved Menards plan. You can see the The brick and the ephes that's used is a tan color, and then obviously the green, which is what we are looking to see mimic.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members?
Well, Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Varga?
it's always up to me to say something about this. We ask many applicants to simplify and match parts of their facilities so it's always a single reference to the rest of the city, to adjacent properties, to just the public in general. So I understand that in your mind, it's a separate operation. In the public and visually, it's the same place. So we would prefer, and I think it's a condition, that you match the existing. I mean, that. I know you're getting the word from corporate that they want to do it that way, but we make even people use their garbage, their refuse container surrounds match their building. We do that. We're just being consistent with that. So I think that's my statement, is that we want the scheme that matches the existing building.
Thank you. Anything from commission members? Would you like to respond?
Yeah, I mean, I completely understand why we want to match them. You know, I just, you know, this is just, as you said, it's corporate. It's our. We've never done a facility that's not these colors. They look good together. We get a lot of compliments on them. You know, there's a lot of other buildings that look different than the Menards store too. You know, so if this was a different owner, a different standard would be applied because there would have been different projects just because Menards is the owner. I understand that everything should be cohesive, but the materials here will be matching for the most part with the store. Again, it's behind the warehouse, behind the fence, so there is a large separation between the store and this building as well. So I think there's just a lot of distinctions or variations between what we're trying to do here compared to what we're trying to do, or what other people are trying to do throughout the city.
I also share the same opinion as Mr. Varga. I like option 2, and I'd like to see it match the existing building. I can't speak for everybody here, but I'd like to see a green roof and have the rest of the building match your existing colors that are there. I like the Menards. It's a good-looking building. I think I told you this before.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, and absolutely, we think it turned out really well, and honestly, it's we've done that
right.
style building now a few times throughout the company, so it's something that we really like as well. It's a good product, and as would this be. I'm not saying this. I mean, this is going to be a good product as well.
So are we at an impasse? Are you saying you can't do this? Or you can't do the conditions?
Well,
Or can you not answer that tonight?
Well, I think it comes to the fact that if you're going to approve this with us only matching the store, then I would recommend that be the motion, and then we'll have to just figure out if we can make it work or not. Because it seems like, you know, we've stated our opinion, we want those colors, but ultimately, it's your decision. You're the ones that approve us or don't approve us, and we will just have to figure it out on our side whether we can live with it or not.
Anything
I mean,
else?
is that fair? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't see any other, whether we delay it a month or whatever, I think the conclusion is going to be the same. So, but I said, what the only other aspect of that is just help him guide me a little bit on how much brick as opposed to the LP siding. I'm still looking a little bit for that answer, whether it's 50-50 with columns, or something a little different than that. Because we have the columns, we'd be willing to, you know, bring those on the south side. I guess I would still ask for, you know, the north side of the facility not to have the block, because we're guessing the space between the store and the self-storage, what we would need for future expansion. If I guess wrong and we have to go into the units with the store, I'd rather not have to tear down a whole bunch of block. That's why we left them, and honestly, no one's going to see it with the fence and the store and everything there, so that's why we've kept that the same on both options, but
Kathy?
sorry, that's a lot.
We didn't make it a condition. I think in looking at the south elevation, Mr. Brenner brings up a great point. The lower portion of the building they are proposing under option 2 is having gray accent panels, but on option 1 they actually use the split face block, and I think that should be consistent on the south side as it is on the west and east. Have the split face block at the bottom, and boy, if they're willing to add columns, then add columns. I mean, why not, to the south side as well? I don't think we have a real heartburn with the north side. They do have a portion of it closest to the entrance, having the split face and some columns, which I think is what will be most visible to the public. So that would need to be added, any changes to the south.
And Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Varga?
We've made that kind of allowance to some people where future expansion may be required, where we don't necessarily require that they use masonry completely on that face. So I don't have a problem with
The north face.
the north face. Yeah, the north face. And Kathy, the way you have the number one condition for architectural review, that's sufficient for guiding them to, in their decision-making?
We actually even added the colors that were approved as part
Right.
of the architectural
Okay.
review with
mean,
the
that's-
main structure.
We can go with that condition.
If that's your pleasure, yes.
If that's okay.
So was there a question out there still about the columns?
The
Yeah,
south
the
side.
south
If you want the
side. Yeah,
columns
let-
and
do-
also that the knee wall at the bottom to be actually split face as it is shown on the east and west elevations, and as opposed to the vertical accent panels that are shown under option 2 on the south elevation.
I'm definitely on board with that.
So that would be a fourth condition?
Yes.
And the condition will be, she's looking, that the south elevation shall be treated the same with masonry
As the east and the west.
as the east and west.
Anything else? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 4 conditions?
Second?
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Crocker?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
We have a site alteration, parking lot expansion at 8940 Tyler Boulevard. Is that applicant here? Please come up, give us your name and address. Tell us about your parking lot.
Okay. My name is Stephen Dominish. I work for Parker Hannafin over at 8940 Tyler Boulevard. As you can see from the site plan, we're undertaking a parking lot expansion to support about 100 new production jobs. From the proposed site plan, we plan to expand first to the north of the building facing Tyler Boulevard. That'll add about 37 spaces. And then we also propose another strip of parking along the west side of the building, which will add another 30 or so spaces. In total, we expect about 60 spaces for the expansion, and it'll basically accommodate shift change for employees.
Thank you. Kathy, anything from the administration?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to note that Mr. Dominish had sent over correspondence just clarifying a couple of items that I'll point out for record. There was a clarification on the actual number of parking spaces. Our report indicated 77 new parking spaces, but with the deduction and the addition of the northern parking lot, there is actually 60 spaces being added rather than 77. That's not part of the conditions, but I just wanted to correct it for the record. Also, with regard to the landscape plan, they've indicated that our recommendation was to relocate some of the existing trees that they will be removing, and they've indicated that the trees are not in good condition, they're not healthy. Therefore, we wouldn't obviously mandate that they relocate unhealthy trees. So under item 4 of the conditions, after the words parking lot islands, we would recommend that as well as the removal and relocation of trees along the west property line be struck. And the comment about light fixtures, we can leave that in as a comment. They indicated they won't be making any changes to light fixtures, but we just like to make that comment as a reminder. So that would be the only change that we would recommend would be to item 4, eliminating the text after the word islands.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members?
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Varga?
Is there a defined fire lane around the building?
There is.
There is, because it's not really clear from the plan.
Okay.
It shows some vegetation close to the, I guess that's the southeast corner. But there's a bona fide fire lane. There was no
Yes.
comments from the fire marshal, so I didn't think it was a problem, but I just wanted to ask. So as
Yeah.
long as everything you do does not disturb the fire lane integrity, that's fine.
Yeah, there's existing islands right now that contain the fire hydrants, and they're all going to be
Fire
maintained.
access is all the way around.
It is.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? With that, I'll entertain a motion.
A motion to approve with the 5 conditions, with number 4 being amended as Kathy spoke.
No, you gotta do better than that.
With the after the word islands, as well as the removal to the end of that being removed.
Because I'm the one who gets.
Thank you. Second. Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Abstain.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Crocker?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. Thank you.
Thanks.
We have an architectural reimage of a commercial building, Planet of the Vapes, at 7411 and 7413 Manor Avenue. This applicant's here. Please give us your name and address and tell us about what you want to do.
I'm Bob Matakovich from Fable Architecture. Address is 12100 Snow Road, Parma, Ohio. The elevation on the screen is what was submitted and what you commented on, what's on the screen now. We sent in today an update, which I believe I saw passed out to everyone that you have in front of you, following what the comments that you had on your staff review letter. So we are keeping the brick on the Planet of the Vapes half of the building. The other tenant space, which has the exposed aggregate concrete, we're proposing to put an EFS product over that actually looks like brick, and it'll be colored to match the existing brick on the Planet of the Vapes. The only other thing we did not do yet was you recommended removing the vestibule. We would like to not remove that right now because they don't have a tenant for that space, and we would take care of that once the new tenant comes in and we figure out what's all going to happen inside the building and where to properly place the entrance for the new tenant. All the other comments, we don't have an issue with meeting any of them.
Thank you. Kathy, anything from the administration?
Just to clarify, because I know this came in late, but I think they've done a really nice job addressing particularly items 2 and 3 of the recommended conditions. If Larry could pull up the existing building, it's just what, I think you can appreciate
it.
what we're talking about here. The red brick that's on the left side, we thought, as you know, we like to keep that red brick theme if we can, and the architect could speak to the actual type of material that's on the right side, but it just doesn't have the same quality, we felt. So we wanted to see that mimicked in some way. And also, obviously, the 2 roof lines are so completely different, but the proposal that had originally come in was just, there was no variation in the roof line, and so that was the recommendation under item 3. Was to add some interest and to break up that roof line. And so that's what you got with the revision today, which definitely addresses items 2 and 3. Obviously, certainly if you're in agreement with that, then those can still stay. Item 4 was obviously a recommendation, but if they're not comfortable removing it, I don't have an opinion either way on that, as far as how you want to handle it.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Varga?
it's always the elevation you don't show.
That's on the on the conditions about addressing the rear of the building,
Right.
and yes, that is going to be repainted.
Well, yeah, and I'm going to suggest, and maybe make a condition that, as you can see on the, I guess that's the northwest elevation, you can just you can paint the back of the
Yes,
building.
yes.
I think the building is already painted, right?
Yes.
So there's no point in trying to stain it.
No,
We try to
no.
use stain, but you got to put paint on paint. So if you could just take the lines, color, find a color that matches the brick, find a color that matches the ephes. You got a stripe at the midpoint, you got a stripe at the top. If you just take that across the back, it'll completely tie the building together. And the only reason I suggest that is because the back of your building faces other properties, parking lots and areas where the public are. So even though it's the back of the building, I'd like to see it painted to kind of match what's going on in the side, or, you know, the theme that you have developed on the 3 elevations, to take that theme just with paint, no other materials, but put that in the back. That's one issue I have, or suggestion. And then another one is, we don't have a site plan because it's an existing building, but you've got 2 dumpsters on the site. One in the northwest elevation, which has kind of a rough wood fence around it, and there's one in the back with no enclosure. Now, typically, we require dumpsters to be enclosed, and we try to make that similar to the material of the building, so it doesn't look like a dumpster enclosure, you know. So, how would you like to approach that issue?
Do you have a preference on where you want them? Because we would, well, we would build the enclosure out of materials that match the building.
Okay,
It wouldn't be a wood fence like
right.
one of them has right now.
Would you put them just in the notch in the back? Would that be the dumpster location, or would you still?
Probably. There's no reason to have it on the side.
Right. Okay, well, that would be, even if it was
Yeah.
block and it was painted to fit in with
Yeah.
the scheme, I think that would be acceptable.
Yeah.
Could you get down to 1 dumpster?
Yes.
Give us your name and address here before you.
Mo Dayam and 4820 West 130th Street, Cleveland, Ohio 44135.
Could you spell that last name?
Dayem.
Okay, thanks.
Actually, bring
Speak right into the mic.
That's actually what we actually did. We eliminated the enclosure that was on the left. Yep, right there.
Okay.
We got rid of that, so that's no longer there. And our goal is to have 1 container, regardless if it's 1 tenant or 2 tenants in the future. I personally think not having 2 containers in 2 separate places looks better. So that's the goal. I'm going to try to keep it that way.
My only comment on the rear of the building,
You got to speak into the mic area.
the rear of the building is about 6 feet lower than the front and the 3 sides, so there's not going to be a whole lot to be able to put the stripe you're asking for on it.
Right. Maybe just painting it the brick color then, if that works. And, or, maybe, I don't know, you have well, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
the idea is I want the
Yeah.
back of the building treated, and I want it to match the other materials.
What color did you paint it recently?
It's white. So it recently got scraped and basically painted white. So it's a clean white wall back there now.
Yeah, match the brick color.
Yeah, we can do
So
that.
it looks
That's
like
not
all 4 sides are
right.
similar.
Okay.
Okay. So that would be another condition, I think, right?
You would just modify number 5 to match,
Yes,
to add at
okay.
the end to match the other elevations?
Right.
With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Is the dumpster one in there?
Yes.
Okay, move to approve with 9 conditions.
You want to scratch number 4?
No, we just want to, yes, and, 8 conditions. We'll remove condition number 4. That can be dealt with when they have an installation of a client, of a tenant maybe. So, proposed 8 conditions with what would be the new number 4 altered to match materials and colors.
Second.
Hold on, Kathy, do you have something?
Well, just existing item number 5, the rear building elevation shall be repainted as part of the approval to match the other elevations.
Yeah. Okay, that's right, yes.
So there's 8 conditions. Okay. Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Crocker?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Architectural reimage of a commercial building, UH Urgent Care at 6900 Center Street. Is that applicant here? Yes. Please give us your name and address. Tell us a little bit about what you want to do.
My name is John Lister. Address is 115 West Town Road, Suite 201, Westchester, Pennsylvania. We are repurposing a vacant restaurant for the use as an urgent care doctor's office. We are making the parking lot more in line with the code. There are parking spaces which project out into drive lanes and parking spaces in aisles which are not wide enough. We're also code compliant with respect to parking counts, both handicap and traditional. Landscaping areas, keeping it in kind with what is there. Removing an outdoor patio, which is one of the places that, because the parking spaces were substandard, we needed more room. And of course, doctor's office doesn't have an outdoor patio. That's how we're getting to our parking counts. We are re-imaging the building, adding a covered entrance. There you are. And also removing, getting back to the site, sorry about jumping around. In the back, there is a exposed walk-in box and dumpster. We're taking down the walk-in box and the one screen wall with the adjacent property. It's visible from the street and the drive entrance into the shopping center, but there is a screen wall between this and I think it's Raising Cane next door. And then we're also putting a premium product, which is a wood grain aluminum product, not wood with a K, to create the trash enclosure. Yeah, that's not it. Try that one, yep. It looks like wood, except it's, if you think about the realistic nature of laminate, because it's a picture, that's what we have here. It's essentially a photograph of wood, which is then placed on aluminum substrate, and it lasts forever. We recently used it in a project in Virginia, won some design awards with it.
Okay.
And then I think you have, well, you started looking at renderings that we have, but we also have straight elevations showing what it looks like now, and then also, of course, what we're proposing. Those particular renderings that she showed don't show the signage, simply because it's, we're not proposing the signage, and it needs to go through a separate process. And also, the signage is not our scope. We are the architects.
Kathy, anything from the administration?
So just, again, just to recap, you received an updated rendering. If you could put the site plan up first, if you would. One of the things we talked about today, after looking at this a little bit more closely, the access drive that comes off of Center Street, right there. The parking spaces to the north, those were slightly modified in terms of dimension, but we were thinking that it might be nice if you could slide in some landscaping right there, or some sort of curbing just to protect that first spot, which is what we typically see anyway when you're coming off the road like that. I don't know if it's as appropriate on the south side, just in terms of, or how you felt, how the architect feels about that. The other thing with the dumpsters to the south there, just to clarify, because right now there's 2 dumpsters. The one's going away, correct?
There's actually only one there, but yes, there will only be one.
There will only
Yeah,
be
there
one.
was at one point in time, and probably because they had a grease container or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we're only going to have one.
Okay, so, and that one will be enclosed with
right.
that new material. And so that screen wall you were talking about was actually to the north of the cooler that was on site, right? Or is on site?
Yes, it's along the northern property line, yes, running east-west.
And then
Actually, it's it's a continuation of that north building wall.
And I guess the only other thing to bring up would be the north, after I looked up at that, the north elevation, which we didn't have initially, but now we do, and it's an existing red brick that is not painted, unlike the rest of the building, in terms of the brick that's on the building. Is that correct?
Right, so can you go back to that other image? Okay, so the bottom photograph, you see the where the gas meter is, and that, yeah, thank you. So you can see, oh, I'm sorry, it's not in line.
Yeah,
There's
the-
an offset. So that first section, which is the painted block, that's the area that's being taken down. The gas service
right,
is being
right,
moved.
right.
And then where it is from the brick going forward, that's what is going to remain.
So I guess that's a question for the commission. With the rest of the building going to a white, does the commission want to see it stay as is, or do they want to change it, maybe do a stained white like we just saw in a recent submittal? That might look nice, but again, just something to consider.
Thank you. Anything from the commission members?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Varga?
following that line of thought, let me just refresh what was just said. The area of masonry that's being retained has been painted or stained?
Nothing.
It's nothing, it's just red brick.
It's red brick.
Okay, and what about the west face of the building? What's going on there?
Oh, the rear elevation?
Yeah, the rear, because you're taking down a cooler enclosure, right?
Yeah, you want to get to the
And so
actual.
what's left there also?
We're finishing 4 sides. Well, the one side is the brick, the other 3 sides are finished consistent with one another. Is that answering your question? So you can see
Well,
right there in
my-
the,
yes,
I'm
and
sorry, you can
so-
see in the background, there
it is.
you are.
Yeah, there.
There it is, okay. So, my response is to make the fourth side, the north side, look like the other 3 sides.
But
Now-
but the other side, those sides are painted brick. It's existing paint.
I understand,
The north side is not.
I understand. We always have this discussion about staining brick or painting brick. None of the brick on the north side now is painted. Yes or no?
It is, you are correct. I'm sorry, it is not.
It is not painted.
Yes.
Well, my concern is to make all 4 sides look similar. So I guess I wouldn't have a big problem because we already have existing brick painted. That we paint the north side, just to be consistent. Even if you use the same color and stained it, it still wouldn't look the same. It would look a little different.
Yeah, trying to stain red is tough.
Yeah, so because we got 3 sides that are one way, I don't have a problem with the staining, painting conundrum. In this case, we can paint it. And I'm suggesting that we can paint it. So what I would like is the 4th side to look with the same breakdown of I guess that's gray to white above. I'm not sure, when I look at the side, I'm not sure how much if that wall is the same height as any of the walls we're looking at here. When I look at, go back to that last one. When I look at the far right, and that wall then just turns and goes back.
Correct.
If you could maintain, you don't have to build a cornice, but if you could put the gray and the white paint on the north wall to just make the building look kind of the same all around, then I think that would be a hit
Okay.
with me.
So you're, just to be sure we're on the same page,
Sure.
essentially painting the stripes so that it's basically, I mean, it's a 2-dimensional representation of the stripes.
Right, just
Gotcha.
so that when
Okay,
you see it as you drive by, the images go around as you turn around the corner. This would just make all 4 sides relatively the same.
Yep.
And this whole site, this whole redevelopment site, we've push this issue with all these buildings that have gone up to look the same on the inside when you're in Giant Eagle, on the outside. So it would only kind of blend everything in.
Yeah, I don't think we have any opposition, hesitancy to painting that and in the pattern that you're suggesting.
Sure, very good. Oh, I had one other question.
Mr. Parker, yeah.
I'm sorry. I just had one other question as I was looking at the plan, and it's really a question more for the city. Has traffic looked at the entrance on Center Street? I was just thinking that coming out, I mean, going in isn't the problem. You get in the turning lane, you turn in, it's no problem. That's awful close to the corner. And at that point, you can only turn, you're in a turn, if you come out of that, you're only in a turning lane. You can only go on Tyler, right?
Go straight to.
No?
It's a straight and a right.
Correct. It's, no, but there's a, when you're next to the curb,
Yeah, the immediate lane is a right turn lane.
which is the one you're supposed to turn in, you know, I know it's a
No, it's
news
not.
story.
Right now it is because of the bridge, but
Isn't it normally?
it's normally a straight and a right.
Well, actually, isn't that where they have the light that sometimes it says straight, sometimes straight and turn? Right, isn't
They
it?
used to have that, yes.
That's right. Well,
During heavy
okay.
traffic periods.
My point is that coming out and making the right turn and then having to deal with the intersection so close, that distance, did they review that they feel comfortable with that exit that close?
Yes, there were no comments made by
There
the
were no
engineers.
comments,
right.
okay. I just sensed, you know, that's a very busy intersection, and, you know, people will try to do anything, like,
You don't want a pork chop, do you?
no, I don't want a pork chop, no, thank you. I was just thinking about an in only, and then just having the in and out in the back. If there's been no comment for
No,
traffic.
the engineering did not make that comment, so.
I was just looking, I thought maybe that's introducing a complexity to that, but maybe, if no one else has that, I'll let my comment go.
How about the landscaping by the, you could bring it right there.
I would be hesitant to introduce more landscaping just because it's another place where it gets under-maintained. We would not have a problem striping it. Just as a little bit of, I don't think you have an existing site plan, and I don't know if you can tell from the aerial, but right now there are parking lots. Yeah, you can see the lines are kind of in this, so we've already made that gesture in trying to make it wider. Also, the top, the northernmost parking space, we've made wider so that person backing out can, you know, back out and do their 3-point getting out and so on and so forth. We would be very happy to stripe it, but as far as extending the landscaping, that would be, it just becomes another thing.
Thank you. Kathy, any issue?
No objections to the striping. I think it would, again, we're just looking for a safety measure. And the only thing I would note to the commission is I would ask that you update item number 1.
With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with 7 items. The first item altered to reflect a painting scheme to be similar to the other 3 sides of the building,
On the north
on
elevation.
the north elevation.
And then do you want to add the striping with regard to the entrance off of Center Street?
Yes.
What? The striping onto Center Street, what?
Look at what Larry is pointing at.
Parking lot.
Oh, the additional striping?
Yes.
Okay, and that would that be a new,
Yes.
okay, then there would be 8 conditions, with the 8th condition being the painting of, basically, their islands, right, at the entrance. Well, they're kind of like an island, isn't it?
Well, it's just the
It's striping of an island.
but we're not asking for a raised curb, as I guess.
No, I know, I'm just saying that the striping creates an island at the entrances.
Add striping,
Okay, right.
We don't have it. What are we looking at here?
Can I offer?
Yes.
please.
Jump right in.
To add striping on the north side and the south side of the center street entrance for a non-parking area abutting the first space on each side.
Good. Chicken dinner.
7 years of college.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Mr. Perkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Crocker?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Architectural reimage of a commercial building at 9075 and 9083 Menor Avenue. The applicant's here?
Yes, there's actually two of us.
Oh, great. Come on up, give us your name and address. Tell us a little bit about what you want to do.
Good evening. Melanie Friedman, FMD Architects, 3200 West Market Street. And when I'm done, if that's okay, if the president and CEO would like to speak about a couple of the conditions.
Could you spell your
that are
last
on
name
here.
real quick?
Friedman.
Thank you.
So this is an existing building where an older portion of the building has a mansard roof, and EFS that over the years has gotten damaged and is, there's old marks from old signage and parts where it's starting to deteriorate. So we're trying to do a facelift, but as you referred to earlier, in trying to keep architectural continuity between adjacent buildings, the facelift that we're trying to do is to help tie this entire building area together. It is two addresses, but there is a connection where it is owned by the same entity, and to make it look a little bit more holistic. Unfortunately, the material of the newer building is split face block that requires footing. So in trying to just do a facelift to the front, we've proposed a Metro thin brick, which doesn't require a footing, as close in color as we can get to the split face. I have a sample here today if you need to see it. But it has a little bit of variation. Instead of just being a completely flat color there, it's like a flashed version of it, so it has a little bit of variation to try to pick up some of that aggregate color that you see in the split face block. The EFS at the top we have maintained and removed the mansard roofs and then tied that EFS across more like a cornice piece, and then inserted the Metro brick in panels so that it's not directly adjacent to the other portion of the building on the left. And then also introducing some canopies to help break up the roof line and let clients coming in out of the weather and just bring that main entrance more prominent. There are a number of doors on the outside of the building, and it helps define where people should go as they come up to it.
Sorry.
A couple items to note. There is an existing sign that we don't have shown in the rendering. It is off to the right side there on the building. I'm sorry. Back there. We are proposing that that be relocated. So one of the comments referred to new signage. We aren't proposing any new signage. We're just proposing to move that existing sign over onto the spot that's highlighted now. I do have samples of the brick and the stone. We do have some stone going on there as well, as you can see in the rendering. Looking down the street, there were multiple newer buildings that had 3 materials on them, and trying to just break that up, give it some character. And then I also have cut sheets of the light fixtures. They are full downlights. Under the canopies is a can light, and then it's full cutoff fixtures where the other exterior fixtures are, as was noted in the comments. And they match an existing fixture that's already on the building.
Thank you. Kathy, anything from administration?
I'm just curious as to their comments. I'm going to guess it's with regard to the parking lot, and that's within item number 2 that we had recommended. There's actually 4 parcels there, and I understand that there might be 2 different entities, but there's some curbing, and it would be, at least from our standpoint, from a planning standpoint, it would be nice to see that curbing removed so there's better traffic flow on site, but I'm wondering if there's some concerns from the applicant on that.
Bingo. So if Melanie wants to speak on that.
Give us your name and address, please.
Melanie Blasco, 9083 Menor Avenue.
Okay.
Thanks for the opportunity to talk about the proposed conditions, and I do have a couple concerns. On item 1 and item 2, but I'll, since you mentioned the parking lot. So if you bring up that, could you bring up that other picture again, please? So I can see from the aerial view where you would have a concern about removing that curb. But my office just happens to be in the front of the building on the west side, which is on the Victoria side. So I personally observe cars pulling into that parking lot thinking they can cut all the way through, only to stop, turn around, and go back out on Victoria. Anyone who's familiar with that area there at the light at Hopkins, it is very, very difficult to turn left out of Victoria. And my concern, a couple things, I think this is a safety concern for our staff and our clients. If that curb is removed, I think it'll become a cut through because cars have an easier time to turn left out of Barton, which is the side street to the east, onto Menor Avenue. I also think that problem will just increase once the daycare center right next door is, once their enrollment increases. It's my understanding that the parents have been instructed that when they exit the daycare center, they're supposed to exit out of Victoria. And I think, again, we're going to see traffic cutting through our parking lot to try to exit off of Barton instead of Victoria. So my concern is that cut through would, removing the curb would create a cut through for a lot of traffic in that area. In addition, and this kind of ties into the proposed condition number 1, but the west side of that building is all administrative offices. So that building houses our outpatient drug and alcohol and prevention services, and the side to the west that you're pointing to is our administrative offices. So clients don't enter that, they don't access that part of the building anyway. They go in the main entrance. The other concern I have would be financial. So the highest point of elevation in that parking lot to the east is 12 to 16 inches from one parking lot to another. So in order to transition that without having a radical slope, we'd have to excavate the existing parking lot, add a new subbase, add new drainage infrastructure, and repave. And now I don't know, I'm just guessing that's probably going to be in excess of $40,000. We are a small nonprofit corporation and providing much needed behavioral health services to the community. The capital project that we're doing is covered by a grant, and that was to make interior improvements and exterior improvements to the building. A parking lot renovation was not budgeted for this project and would, I believe, put undue hardship on our agency and the clients we serve, as any additional funds spent on capital projects are less funds I have to spend on the critical treatment and prevention services for the citizens in Lake County. So that's my concern about removing that curb. Can I speak to one of the other conditions then also?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. The first one, lots under common ownership shall be combined with Lake County Auditor. So again, I just want to stress, there are two separate functions going on in that building. We have our administrative offices or our office headquarters there, and then the other part is a clinic or that serves the behavioral health services for clients. They enter the main entrance. They don't access the west side of the building. So they are two very separate functions under the same roof and the same ownership. The other thing, when we purchased the building in 2017, there was no requirement that we combine the lots at that time. I also think combining the lots would limit the agency's options into the future. Things change, and we can't always predict what our community's behavioral health needs are going to be in years to come. I would like that the agency would continue to have that option if it were needed to lease or sell both portions of that if at some point we needed a larger outpatient office. So I would like that we would be able to still have that option rather than combine the two parcels.
Thank you. Kathy?
Okay, so in addressing item number one, and maybe there's some misunderstanding as to what a lot combination means. Whenever we have an opportunity to combine lots for, again, zoning purposes, we certainly like to see that. It just simplifies and it makes the project compliant with zoning. Right now, you've got a parcel line running through each building. And as the way the auditor had divvied up the parcels, the two parcels to the left, if I'm remembering correctly, and the applicant can certainly correct me, those two parcels were under one ownership name, and on the building to the right, those two parcels were under a separate ownership name. What we were suggesting was at least those two parcels with each respective ownership name be combined. And really, all it does is, well, it simplifies your tax bill, number one, and then again, it makes the parcel compliant from a zoning standpoint, and we don't have a property line running through the middle of a building, which is what we never like to see. That back parcel there is a parking lot, and I can't read what that says, but I think that same ownership is tied to the building to the right. So really, that's all we were trying to do with the ownership. We're not trying to complicate things. We're actually trying to simplify it. I understand, and we are, just for the record, the administration is thrilled with the changes. I think it looks beautiful. We were making the suggestions for the combination of the parking lot, but if it's going to be too, it's going to be cost prohibitive, then we'll back off, certainly. I understand that could be a problem. I still think flow is always better to be had instead of, but regardless, if it's not a good idea for them and it doesn't work financially, then fine, let's just let it be. But that was the only purpose of the lot combination, if that makes sense. And again, if that's too complicated, I don't know if Paul wants to weigh in on that, but that's really all we were trying to do, was to clean up the parcel lines.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Barker.
Just so that I understand. So we actually have 5 parcels here, right? And I don't know if, I think the city's only suggesting that you combine the 2 parcels to the west and the 3 separately, and the 3 parcels to the east. Would that be acceptable to you?
Yeah, I guess I misunderstood.
Okay, I was thinking that maybe you thought you had to do all of it. And I think that would work for the city too, wouldn't it? Because both buildings would be separate on separate
That takes care
parcels.
of both problems. I think that takes care of both problems that Kathy brought up. So if they're combining 2 westernmost parcels and the 3 eastern parcels,
From a zoning point of view, that should
that
work.
would be fine for, I don't see the issues on the zoning point of view
Okay.
from a legal perspective either. So I think if you're willing to do that, then that would be acceptable.
And my other thought is that I understand the penalty about having to grade the 2 lots. If it's clear that there's 2 separate user groups for each, one group of customers or patients or clients are on the eastern side, eastern lot, and the western is only administrative, maybe some signage could reinforce that.
If it's not a problem for the users of the building, and if they have no confusion,
Yeah.
we were looking at it from the standpoint is somebody pulling in on Victoria and going, oh darn, I wish I would have, now I gotta go all the way out and go all the way around to get to the other
But if the
side.
clients all know to go to the east
Right.
side and the
Right.
staff goes to the west side, I think that'll be okay. The only other thought I had was that maintaining that, what is it, about a 10-inch difference between the 2 lots? That's almost a safety issue. I mean, maybe there should be more of of something to keep people from trying to drive through when they
It
don't.
didn't look like, from the street view, it didn't look like that big of a change, but again, I'm not gonna contest what they're saying. If it's a concern, fine, then it's a concern, we'll just let it be and then just strike it from the condition.
Okay, no, but I was actually thinking a little beyond that, which is maybe you need to put up a little fence or something so that people don't try to drive across that 10-foot or 10-inch change, Someone might not see it, and they would just drive through thinking that it was continuous, and then it's not continuous.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
That higher elevation is closer to Menor Avenue. Where that car is parked, that Kia,
Yeah.
that is lower right there. But if you go, that would be south, that part right there is
I
quite a
can
bit
see that.
higher.
Yeah.
And so it's not the whole area is higher, but that area towards Menor Avenue is certainly higher. And the other thing is cars are typically parked where that Kia is, so when cars are pulling up there,
They're
they
not
see
gonna
not
try
to
to
go
go through.
through.
Ah.
And I just want to make a comment about the signage. We do have a sign that says main entrance, and so clients know where to enter.
And would these buildings both have different addresses?
They
Because
do.
they're two
They already do.
You already do. So when someone's coming to this location and they put the address in their phone, it'll take them to the right location, and they won't be confused between the two buildings, hopefully. Well, my only, yeah, I guess that's fine. I mean, I was just thinking that maybe people will try to drive through there and not, that's not that good.
For your minutes, this is Melanie Friedman jumping back in. I did want to ask one question on the lot consolidation. So we have a contractor lined up, and as you know, the bidding climate is very volatile right now, and getting contractors lined up is difficult. So I didn't know if it had to be, the lot consolidation had to be completed before the issuance of a permit, or if we could move forward with the commitment that we would do that.
No, it's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
As long as we know you're gonna do it, and if that makes sense to, as far as how I explained it, if that's fine, then
Yeah.
it's fine.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Varga.
I think you're doing a pretty good job of tying all this together, because you got a lot of different things happening with the existing buildings. And I understand the kind of material you're talking about. My only input, I don't know if it's even a condition, but that where you have the red brick, all the red brick is kind of the same color. Where you have the stone that shows up in different places, that it's all the same color. So we have a lot of varied surfaces and a lot of even, the shapes. As long as the same, like in the drawing, in the illustration that you gave us, that if all the red brick is the same color, all the stone is the same color, the black is black, so that it does kind of pull it together, even though you have all these different planes and all these different, it's a very complex footprint, but that the material is consistent throughout the entire elevation. I think that would be, I mean, I think you may be proposing that, but I just would want to be reassured that everything will be the same color or the same material wherever it shows up in the complete elevation.
Yes, where there's new material, it is all the same color. We could not get an exact match to the existing left half of the building. So in the rendering where it looks like the left half is brick, it's a brick size split face block, so it's a little bit different texture. So we
Okay.
can't get an exact match, but we are being
The color is
consistent
pretty
with it.
close.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just trying to, because there's so many different facets to this shape, that if the colors and the materials are relatively consistent, it'll help pull it all together.
Yes, that was our goal.
Okay, and then that's not even a condition, that's what you're doing.
Okay. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve with the 4 conditions?
With number 2 being modified with the removal of the existing curbing between the 2 parking lots being removed. The second sentence needs to be removed. Second.
Well said. Jackie, please call the roll.
Mr. Haddon?
Yes.
Mr. Kirkovich?
Yes.
Ms. Small?
Yes.
Mr. Tiedemann?
Yes.
Mr. Varga?
Yes.
Mr. Crocker?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Kathy, anything?
Nothing, Mr. Chairman.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.